Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take your stack of information and turn it into instant clarity. Today, we are looking at something. Well, it's more than just a struggling college football team. We are dissecting a complete institutional implosion, a program that came into the season with, real championship hopes.
Legitimate aspirations. People were talking about them as a contender.
Exactly. And now they find themselves just adrift, infighting, finger pointing, and this profound lack of trust.
That is precisely right. If you, the listener, were looking at the Tulane Green Wave expecting a contender, and a lot of people were, the media, the fans, you're now watching a program that is just mired in crisis.
The numbers are bad.
They're sitting at just a deeply disappointing 2-5 overall. They're already 0-3 in American Athletic Conference play.
And riding a 4-game losing streak?
A brutal 4-game losing streak.
Yeah.
It's a stunning, really shocking collapse of cohesion.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Our sources, we've got everything here.
We really do. Detailed box scores, league standings.
And crucial internal notes, even simulated interview segments.
Right.
And they tell a story that goes so much deeper than just, poor execution on a Saturday afternoon. Our deep dive mission here is to really analyze all this pressure, internal and external. But we're focusing specifically on the head coach's palpable and very vocal distrust.
I thought the core of it.
He has gone after everyone, publicly and privately, critiquing the program's entire ecosystem.
The talent on the roster, the administration above him, even his own coaching staff. Yeah, the documents make it crystal clear. This is not a crisis of, bad injury luck or a temporary dip in performance.
No.
It is a full-scale institutional breakdown of alignment and confidence, and it's driven by the coach's decision to just externalize all the blame.
It's a leadership vacuum.
Absolutely. A leadership vacuum disguised as a losing record.
And that gets us to the core paradox we really need to get into right away. You've got a program that, by the data, has some truly elite components.
Oh, absolutely. That defense is for real.
A nationally ranked defense. So how does a program with that kind of, foundational strength completely stall out? How does it fall apart because of these internal conflicts and this total lack of trust from the top?
It's like having a race car with a world-class engine.
Right.
But the steering wheel isn't connected to the tires and the pit crew hates each other.
That's a great analogy. The parts are elite, but the functionality has just collapsed.
It's the absolute definition of a dysfunctional system. And to really understand the depth of this schism, we have to start where the conflict shows up most brutally.
On numbers.
The statistical profile of a team that simply cannot function as a cohesive whole. The numbers themselves are the smoking gun.
All right, we have to just rip the Band-Aid off here and look at the scoreboard.
Yeah, there's no sugarcoating this.
The ugly truth is undeniable. Tulane is 2-5. They're sitting, 12th in the American Athletic Conference standings with that 0-3 start.
And they've dropped 4 straight games. Just reading these box scores, it feels like you're reading an injury report. It's that grim.
And we really have to look beyond just this season, right? Because there's a bigger narrative here.
We must broaden the lens, yes. Because one of the central criticisms around this coach, and it feeds into this idea that the program has an inherent ceiling, is his career performance under pressure.
Against the big team.
Against the very best. Our sources highlight a broader historical context where the coach holds just a dismal 2-17 record against top 25 competition.
2-17.
2-17.
Wow. That number, that's the constant refrain from critics, isn't it? The ones who argue the program has fundamentally hit a ceiling under this coach. What does that 2-17 record tell us strategically?
Well, it suggests that while this coach can routinely win against, peer competition, or against lesser talented teams where scheme and effort are the deciding factors, he cannot consistently recruit, retain, or strategize a team that challenges for national relevance.
Or even conference championships.
Exactly. Not when the stakes are highest and the margin for error is just razor thin when they face a team with comparable or, superior talent.
That's when it all gets exposed.
That is when the systemic deficiencies, which the coach himself is now complaining about, are laid bare for everyone to see.
So their argument from his critics isn't that he's a bad coach, per se.
No, not at all.
It's that he's an unscalable coach, one whose system works up to a point.
But that point falls well short of the expectations set by the fan base and, more importantly, the administration.
Precisely. And this season's losses, they just illustrate that ceiling perfectly.
They really do. We can use the box scores to pinpoint exactly where the program is faltering, and it shows the failure is rooted in fundamental execution.
Particularly on offense.
Oh, especially on offense.
Okay, let's look at the 3 losses that really tell the whole story of this failure. The first one is, it's just a glaring example, the blowout loss to number 6 Clemson.
Yeah, 52-14.
52-14. And when you dive into that box score, you see the defense. They actually put up a fight early on.
They did. Tulane scored 7 in the first quarter.
But then, nothing. 0 points across the entire second half. The offense was just completely shut down.
The efficiency disparity in that game is staggering. It really can't be overstated.
That's the numbers.
Clemson generated 329 yards of total offense. Tulane managed just 181.
That's almost a 2-to-1 difference.
It is. But more tellingly, you look at the yards per play. Clemson was averaging 6.2 yards per play. Tulane, 4.3.
Wow.
When you have a nearly 2-yard differential in efficiency on every single snap, you're just not competing. That's what separates a competitive game from a demoralizing blowout, and it puts an absolutely unsustainable burden on your defense.
And then you have the 27-7 loss to number 10 Memphis. This one wasn't a 50-point blowout.
No, but in some ways it's more telling.
It hammered home that same point about the program's ceiling.
Right, absolutely. Tulane only managed 7 points. Again, they just couldn't keep pace with a top conference rival. They got 306 yards of total offense, which, on paper is respectable.
That Memphis still outpaced them.
By a lot. 388 total yards, and they were averaging a huge 8.1 yards per play.
8.1. That's just chunk play after chunk play.
It speaks volumes. It shows the Memphis offense was just gashing them. So while Tulane's defense bent, the offense gave them no rest, no margin for error. The box score from that Memphis loss shows Tulane was 4 for 9 on third down.
Which is actually not terrible.
It's decent.
Yeah.
But the overall lack of scoring shows that even when they move the ball, they just lack that explosive ability or the red zone efficiency, the punch to turn yards into points.
Okay, and finally, the one that might be the most frustrating for fans. The 24-21 loss to SMU. The conference opener.
Oh, this one had to hurt.
Yeah.
Because it shows what could have been.
With the just slightly better execution, Tulane actually had more total offense in this game, 354 yards to SMU's 320. They outgained their opponent.
And that's the key metric, right? They averaged 6.0 yards per play. They were moving the ball effectively.
Juts.
But our sources reveal what truly lost that game, and it serves as a microcosm of the entire season.
Turnovers.
They lost the turnover battle brutally. 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, and those led directly to SMU points. Meanwhile, SMU, 0 turnovers.
0.
This just shows a fundamental catastrophic inability to protect the ball, even when the rest of the execution is relatively solid.
And this brings us right to the stark contrast, the absolute contradiction at the heart of this team.
Defense versus offense.
If we were describing 2 separate programs, one would be competing for a New Year's Six Bowl,
and the other would be fighting to avoid, relegation.
It's that bad.
Let's start with the immense, undeniable defensive prowess. This side of the ball is a national standout.
I mean, the numbers are incredible.
Our sources confirm they are allowing only 268.1 yards per game. That is the 3rd best mark in the entire nation.
3rd best nationally. That is absolutely insane, especially when you think about how often their offense is turning the ball over.
Right.
The defense is putting up championship caliber numbers. They've got 19 sacks over 7 games, so they're generating pressure. The defense is legitimately doing everything a coach could possibly ask for to win games.
They're carrying the team. No question about it.
But all that success, all that elite performance, it's being completely undermined by the offensive calamity.
Calamity is the right word. When you look at the offense's national rankings, they are at the bottom of almost every metric that matters for scoring points.
Okay, give us the devastating statistics. The ones that prove this deep dive is about organizational failure, not just bad luck.
The Green Wave holds the worst turnover differential in the entire nation. -15.
-15? That's not just bad, that is.
Historically damaging. They've thrown the most interceptions in the nation, 18 already, through 7 games.
18 interceptions.
They're averaging just 18.3 points per game, which ranks them as the 5th worst nationally. And overall, they're producing only 287.6 yards per game, the 3rd worst in the nation.
I have to stop you there. So let me get this straight. We're talking about the 3rd best defense in the nation and the 3rd worst offense in the nation on the same team. How can a team be so diametrically opposed on the 2 sides of the ball?
Well, the sources focus heavily on the quarterback play as the statistical linchpin of this collapse.
Cole Weaver.
The starting QB, Cole Weaver, has thrown 15 touchdowns against 16 interceptions.
16.
Think about that for a moment. He's throwing one interception more than he throws a touchdown. That's just a catastrophic ratio.
It's impossible to win that way.
You cannot run a modern college offense with a liability like that under center. It doesn't matter how good the surrounding talent is. That is the source of the turnovers, the stall drives, the lack of scoring.
So if we synthesize this whole point, the statistics prove the central conflict is real. It's tangible. The defense is constantly forced back on the field because the offense can't sustain drives or protect the ball.
And their success holding opponents to elite numbers is being utterly wasted by the offense's collapse.
This statistical contrast, this is the fundamental source of the internal friction. It's what's fueling the defense's resentment and the offense's self-doubt.
The defense is pulling the rope with all its might, but the offense keeps cutting it. And when you have this massive disparity, the locker room is guaranteed to fracture. The defense starts looking across the sideline and thinking,
we held them to 17 points and we still lost. Why are we even doing this?
That is the exact moment when the coach, under all this external pressure, decided to publicly throw fuel on that fire.
And that takes us directly to the moment the internal frustration just boiled over and all trust evaporated. This is where the story shifts, right? It goes from statistical failure to a complete leadership breakdown.
Or at least a catastrophic failure of communication.
Right. With the national spotlight shining brightly on that 235 record, the coach's response, it wasn't to shoulder the blame.
No, it was to deflect it. Through what can only be described as a public betrayal of his players.
He issued the most controversial statement of the season, publicly stating that some players on the current roster aren't good enough to win at the expected level.
I mean, that is the clearest, most damaging, most direct expression of distrust in your personnel possible. It just shatters the unwritten contract between a coach and his team.
Which is?
That the coach will defend and develop the roster he has. Period.
And he didn't just stop at generalities, did he? Our sources detail the specific deficiencies he cited.
Oh, yeah. He elaborated exactly where he sees the roster falling short. He mentioned a lack of innate speed, a failure of situational execution, and maybe most insultingly,
poor football IQ.
Poor football IQ.
Yeah.
He went right to the heart of individual performance, claiming the team is losing because players are unable to consistently win their one-on-one matchups.
So he framed the problem not as a tactical or a scheme issue,
but as an inherent talent issue.
Yeah.
He explicitly argued that talent, not just coaching, sets the ceiling.
That is just a staggering statement to make mid-season. Let's challenge that premise for a second. If he says the players lack the talent to win one-on-one matchups, isn't he implicitly admitting one of two things? Either his staff is failing at talent evaluation during recruiting,
or they're failing at development once the players get on campus.
Exactly. So how does he justify making the players the scapegoat here?
He justifies it by immediately launching into a structural argument. He points the finger at those above him, the administration, and the modern mechanisms of recruiting and retention.
So he's strategically shifting the responsibility.
Exactly. Away from his own staff's ability to develop and onto the systems that brought the players in, and, in his view, failed to keep the good ones.
Okay, let's explore that. That's strategic deflection. He stated clearly that recruiting is only half the battle now.
Right. The other half is retention, development, and crucially, NIL support.
This is the coach introducing the harsh realities of modern college football to justify his team's deficiencies.
He claimed the program lost players we couldn't afford to lose, which is a clear reference to the transfer portal. And how were those players replaced?
With projects, according to him.
The word projects is just incredibly loaded, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. The implication is that they are high-risk, low-floor players who require extensive time and development.
Which the coach clearly feels he doesn't have the time or the resources to provide, especially when he's being judged on immediate results.
This whole assertion, it feels like a clear attack on the support structure and the long-term vision.
It is. He asserted that some position rooms are thin, inexperienced, or haven't progressed as promised when decisions were made above my head.
Decisions were made above my head.
That phrase, that is a direct, non-negotiable declaration of distrust in administrative oversight and direction.
He's saying, I was promised a competitive roster and the tools to retain it.
And instead, I was delivered a group of projects and the inability to keep my elite talent.
And if the administration and his superiors really were responsible for those retention failures,
then The coach's public critique of the player's talent becomes a weapon directed at the athletic department.
It's saying, look how poorly you equipped me.
Exactly. It's a calculated move to gain leverage. But the most revealing statement comes when he tries to draw the line between what he considers coachable versus, innate talent.
This quote is something else.
He said, "You can coach effort, you can coach discipline. You can't coach burst, instincts, or confidence when the lights come on."
That quote right there is the philosophical foundation of his distrust. He is essentially saying, my job is to teach effort and discipline, and I've succeeded at that.
The failure lies in the innate ability of the athlete.
Right. By claiming he can't coach burst or instincts, he is cementing the idea that the players just lack the physical and mental ceiling required to succeed at this level.
And the final part of that quote is just devastating. You can't coach confidence when the lights come on.
By saying this, he's putting the final burden of failure squarely on the shoulders of the players.
The very players who, in his view, just don't possess the mental fortitude to succeed in high-pressure situations. And he's directly linking that to the 217 record against ranked opponents.
It's the ultimate critique of a talent evaluator, and it's the ultimate morale killer. If he's arguing that his players lack the fundamental speed or football IQ to execute the plays,
then he's undermining his entire roster's ability to succeed, no matter how much effort or discipline they show.
He has essentially told them, your best effort is fundamentally inadequate.
This distrust, therefore, isn't just a coach venting frustration. It's a strategic move to preemptively justify failure by externalizing the blame.
Blaming the talent they possess and the systems that acquired and retain that talent.
But the administration wasn't his only target. The distrust clearly extends to the inner workings of his own building.
Okay, let's pivot now to the coach's strained relationship with the athletic department.
Strained might be putting it mildly.
Right. This isn't just typical organizational friction. The sources detail specific areas of failure that constitute a complete distrust of administrative support, especially in the modern high-speed college football landscape.
The sources cite a major lack of NIL support and slow retention efforts.
And in today's environment, that's a death sentence. Roster stability is often bought through well-organized collectives and quick, decisive action.
So when he alleges slow retention efforts, he's saying the administration is failing to secure the talent he does have, letting his key players walk right into the transfer portal.
We should probably define the context here for the listener. The transfer portal moves incredibly fast.
Blindingly fast. If a player enters the portal, you have hours, maybe a couple of days, to engage in NIL negotiations to keep him or recruit his replacement.
So what does slow retention efforts mean in practice?
It means that the infrastructure surrounding the team, the NIL collective, the compliance office, the administrative green light process, it's moving at the speed of bureaucracy.
While college football is now operating at the speed of a venture capital funding round.
Exactly. If the administration takes 2 weeks to approve a retention package that needs to be offered in 2 hours, the coach views that as systemic sabotage.
And he used a really powerful phrase to describe this, a crippling lack of outdated urgency.
That single phrase encapsulates his feeling that the people above him are living in a past version of college football. They're unaware of the speed and resources required today.
It implies that the decision makers aren't reacting to the fundamental shift in the sport.
Outdated urgency means they're prioritizing, long-term capital projects when they should be urgently staffing a dedicated NIL liaison or streamlining the transfer recruitment process.
It's a distrust of their vision, their understanding of the competitive landscape.
And that lack of understanding made the coach feel misled. He claimed he was sold one vision.
Presumably one of high investment and modern support.
That fundamentally differed from the reality he experienced once he was on the ground. That is a foundational breach of trust.
Of course. If the leader believes the goals and resources presented to him were dishonest or impossible, why would he trust any future commitment or investment?
This sounds like a coach who feels completely stranded. Like he's constantly having to fight for basic competitive advantages that his rivals already possess.
He sees his 2-5 record as a direct consequence of being structurally undermined, not strategically outcoached.
But the distrust didn't stop at the athletic director's office. The poison permeated his own coaching staff.
Yeah, we hear about reported tension within the coaching staff itself.
The head coach attributed this internal chaos to mixed messages, and even more damning, resistance to off-season changes.
Which suggests internal sabotage, or at least a lack of unified belief in the direction he was taking the program.
The conflict between development and immediate output seems central to this staff friction, particularly among those responsible for that failing offense.
The coach claimed they were being told by someone, maybe the administration, maybe internal traditionalists, to prioritize long-term player development.
But were then judged solely on immediate weekly output. That is an impossible standard. And he's laying that critique at the feet of the structure and the people who are prioritizing their own long-term security over immediate results.
Let's talk about that specific accusation of resistance. When he was asked where this was coming from, he gave a very pointed non-answer that was clearly an accusation.
Yes, he said the resistance came from people who don't have to call plays on 3rd and long.
That is a directed missile.
It absolutely is. He's essentially pointing the finger at non-offensive coordinators, defensive coaches, or possibly high-level administrative staff who are comfortable in their roles and don't bear the immediate intense pressure of the offense's abysmal performance.
He's saying, it is easy for you to second-guess my decisions when your side of the ball is succeeding.
Or when your job doesn't rely on us converting a crucial 3rd down.
It just creates this us versus them mentality right in the middle of the coaching staff.
He's isolating himself and the offensive personnel against everyone else, defensive staff, administrators, even development specialists.
This confirms the systemic breakdown. The coach genuinely believes he's being asked to manufacture offense,
while simultaneously fighting uphill battles that don't need to exist.
This just indicates a fundamental, deep-seated distrust of the entire process, the decision-makers governing the whole team.
He believes the system is rigged against him, not just by external forces like rival recruiters, but by internal inefficiency and a lack of modern urgency. The result is total non-alignment.
And when the captain starts saying the ship is sinking because the crew is bad, the admiralty is incompetent, and the blueprints were wrong.
The morale of the crew is the first and most severe casualty.
We established that the defense is elite, while the offense is just turning the ball over constantly.
Right, the worst turnover differential in the nation.
So the coach is taking immense heat, and his response is to deflect that pressure by distributing the blame everywhere. But the fallout isn't just administrative tension. It is immediate and damaging to the very players he needs to win. The coach's comments, they didn't happen in a vacuum, right?
Not at all. Our sources detail the immediate damaging reaction in that locker room.
The atmosphere was characterized by hurt pride, frustration, and a sense of betrayal.
The sources describe the mood as turning quiet but tense, which is often worse than open shouting. It signals withdrawal and deep resentment.
That's the natural, inevitable consequence of a leader publicly throwing his subordinates under the bus.
Absolutely. And we have specific quotes detailing the psychological damage. Starting quarterback Cole Welliver, who is bearing the brunt of those 16 interceptions.
Dear, the guy.
He noted that it's hard to play loose after being told the roster isn't good enough. He said that such comments stick with you.
And of course they do. When a coach undermines a player's confidence in public, he ruins that player's ability to execute complex tasks under pressure.
Welliver's already dealing with a catastrophic interception rate.
And the coach, by telling him the whole team lacks confidence when the lights come on, is essentially guaranteeing the QB will press and throw more picks.
It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It totally does. And the players saw the move for what it was.
They saw it as a deliberate, cynical strategy. Running back Micah Strickland described the coach's comments as a deflection rather than accountability.
And Strickland went even further, didn't he?
He did. He revealed the damage to future program building, admitting the environment makes him wonder if I made the wrong decision in signing with Tulane.
That is a staggering quote. It's not just about this season anymore.
No, it's about the future.
It shows that the brand and the coach's reputation are actively being damaged for future recruiting classes. The fact that a current player is publicly questioning his college choice because of the coach's lack of faith, that means the damage is already extending into the future retention and recruiting pipeline.
Strickland's sentiment is so critical because he provided context for this feeling of selective blame.
What did he say?
He said, "We've done our job most weeks. When the offense struggles, suddenly it's about talent." This suggests the players feel the coach is willing to accept blame for, effort issues, but immediately shifts the blame to innate ability burst, instinct win scheme, or play calling results in failure.
And the pushback on accountability wasn't just passive regret. We have skill position players like Jalen Elder directly challenging the coaching scheme.
Yes, Elder, who is likely just incredibly frustrated by the lack of success, despite the team's defensive brilliance, suggested the struggles are due to predictable play calling.
Which directly counters the coach's narrative that the problem is a talent ceiling.
Elder's quote, "Half the time we're running the same concepts every week. Defenses know what's coming." This is a direct public challenge to the competence of the offensive strategy.
The players are basically saying, we might lack burst, but your plays lack creativity.
That's it in a nutshell.
Other players highlighted the emotional toll. Gerald Priester remarked that public disparagement causes players to press even more when confidence is already thin.
And we see this cycle, right? Coach blames players for lack of confidence,
which causes the players to lose more confidence,
leading to more mistakes, which further validates the coach's external critique. It's a downward spiral.
And this tension, it didn't just stay in the air. It spilled over into specific positional group conflict,
which is a key sign of a completely fractured locker room. The documents detail the growing tension and heated moments between the skill position players and the offensive line room.
That makes perfect sense, though. The skill position players are saying what Elder said. The play calling is predictable, but we can't even get time to run the route.
And the offensive line is likely pointing the finger right back at the turnover numbers, saying, we blocked for 3 seconds, and the ball is already in the air, going the other way.
The offense's inability to sustain drives and the high number of turnovers are fueling this internal finger-pointing instead of, unified solutions.
An anonymous player quote just sums up the total breakdown in unity. Everyone's pointing fingers now, and nobody's pulling the rope the same direction.
They're operating like warring factions.
Not a cohesive unit. The coach's public critique served as the match that lit the fuse on the entire internal division.
In the face of all this fracturing, you have to give some credit to the team captains.
Absolutely. The sources report they met privately to urge teammates not to splinter and to focus on saving the season.
That is player leadership trying to mend the damage done by the coaching staff itself.
It demonstrates a leadership vacuum at the very top.
But even with that attempt at resilience, the sources suggest the emotional damage it's probably permanent.
It seems that way. We have that senior player's quote that just emphasizes the lasting effect of this lost trust. You remember who had your back and who didn't.
That is a chilling statement for a coach to read. It means that regardless of whether Tulane wins or loses the next few games, the emotional contract, the relational contract between the players and the coach is broken.
That distrust, aired publicly, will define the remainder of his tenure. Even if he stays and wins, that relationship will be forever transactional, not familial.
The mirror is officially cracked.
And the shards are impossible to put back together. Which leads us to the final complicating factor. The coach himself appears to be looking for an exit,
which only validates the player's sense of betrayal. So, as if the internal chaos, the statistical collapse, and the crisis of trust weren't enough.
Here comes another layer.
The coach's issues are being heavily compounded by external factors, primarily the rampant speculation regarding his job future.
The sources confirm the coaching carousel rumors are circling, and it's putting immense destructive stress on an already fragile situation.
And these are specific rumors, right?
Very specific.
Yeah.
The coach has been linked to potential openings at Houston and Army, as well as several unspecified Power 5 programs. This chatter happening while the team is struggling and the coach is publicly criticizing the infrastructure.
It just adds incredible strain to everyone involved. We should probably analyze the implications of these specific rumors. Why Houston and Army?
It's a great question, because these two schools represent polar opposite solutions to his current problem, which tells us a lot about what the coach is looking for.
Okay, so Houston.
Houston is a high-level Power 5 program. Recently elevated, often requiring a quick infusion of resources and a higher NIL budget. A move there would suggest the coach wants more of what he claimed Tulane lacked.
Administrative urgency, competitive resources.
The ability to recruit those high-burst, high-instinct athletes. He'd be moving to a place where he could credibly demand modern resources.
And Army. That is a completely different world.
A completely different program. A service academy defined by a rigid system, extreme discipline, and minimal reliance on external NIL funding.
So a move there would suggest what?
That he wants more control, a culture where he can impose his philosophy completely, regardless of resource limitations. He'd be prioritizing discipline and system execution over burst and talent ceiling.
So he'd be operating in a program where that 217 record against ranked opponents is less relevant than program culture.
Analyzing those two destinations confirms his state of mind. He is desperate for a place where institutional alignment matches his philosophy.
Either he wants maximum resources to buy better talent, or maximum control to impose a rigid system on existing talent.
Army. In either case, he had declared Tulane insufficient.
And this brings us back to that perfect visual analogy that our sources provide.
It's a great one.
It's like seeing a captain studying maps of other ports while the current ship is taking on water.
The message that sends to the crew, the players who he just publicly called not good enough, is devastating.
It suggests the leader's focus is no longer on navigating the immediate crisis,
but on securing his own exit strategy before the ship goes down completely. And that chatter is placing additional strain on a team that desperately needs stability.
Every player knows the person demanding accountability and criticizing their talent might not even be there next year.
It transforms a dynamic from "we are in this fight together" to
do a transactional, the coach is auditioning for his next job, and we are the props he needs to perform for the cameras.
Right. The players are now questioning their own commitment when the head of the program is questioning his commitment to the institution.
It just creates a massive loophole for players to mentally check out.
Of course. Why should they invest 100% of their effort and trust in a system that the coach himself has declared broken and that he may abandon in a few weeks?
Their effort just risks helping him land a better job while they're left behind with a damaged program.
Now, to be fair, the sources do note that the coach has not publicly committed to leaving.
He's repeatedly stressed his commitment to finishing the 2026 season.
But even his statement is so loaded with conditions, it makes his loyalty feel incredibly fragile.
His commitment comes with a massive caveat, doesn't it?
It does. He links his tenure to the ongoing internal battle with the administration. He admitted that when alignment breaks down, you'd be lying if you said you didn't evaluate everything.
That's his conditional commitment.
He's saying very clearly, my commitment lasts only as long as I feel supported and aligned, given that he has already publicly declared the administration and staff non-aligned.
That commitment is essentially a week-to-week evaluation.
He is treating the entire situation as an ongoing performance review of the administration's willingness to give him what he demands. If they don't meet his needs by the end of the season, the evaluation is complete and he's gone.
This whole section just solidifies the deep-seated distrust. It's now a leverage tactic to force compliance or facilitate a clean exit.
His focus is entirely transactional and external. He is applying pressure to the administration through the media, using the threat of his departure to gain leverage. But in doing so, he has sacrificed the very thing a struggling team needs most.
Unity, internal belief, and a stable captain. #outro. This has been a fascinating, if bleak, deep dive.
Bleak is a good word for it.
We started with the simple fact of a 2-5 record, but we end with this profound understanding that the Tulane crisis is less about the losses on the field and far more about a total devastating breakdown of alignment.
The sources reveal a head coach who has publicly and privately declared war on the very structure meant to support him. He has lost faith in his talent.
Publicly stating some players aren't good enough.
He has lost faith in his staff, citing internal resistance and mixed messages. And most fundamentally, he has lost faith in his administration.
Alleging a critical lack of NIL support, slow retention, and that outdated urgency in building a modern program. He's a man who feels he was sold one vision and delivered another, and his distrust has just rippled through the program, shattering the locker room culture.
Leading to public pushback from key players who feel betrayed, blamed, and questioned in their own commitment.
The central consequence of this leadership style is that the coach's public defense of his own competence,
by blaming the talent ceiling and external factors,
has completely undermined the confidence and effort of the players he relies on. It's a self-inflicted wound, a total systemic failure,
where the elite performance of the defense is utterly wasted by the chaos and lack of confidence in the offensive structure.
And we have to remember the coach's final message to the fans, which was also a clear message to the administration. Demand clarity, demand alignment. Winning doesn't happen when football decisions are made by people too far removed from the consequences.
He is calling for a structural coup, demanding total control or threatening to depart.
And that brings us to the final provocative thought.
The source material frames this whole situation like a ship's crew losing coordination because the captain is visibly studying maps of other ports.
So if a leader, facing adversity, publicly breaks trust with his team and his staff, declaring them inadequate talent or internal resistance, can the program ever truly recover its sense of unity, its shared commitment?
Regardless of whether that leader stays or goes. Given that senior player's damning quote, you remember who had your back.
Is the damage to the relational core of the team already irreversible? That is the question you were left to mull over.